So, talented author Jeff Stewart asked me to demo the MKH-416 from Sennheiser, the voiceover industry standard 416 shotgun, the much maligned 416, through the SPL Channel One Mark III, which is what you're listening to right now with a couple of the features turned on.
From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
So this would be how I would use the 416. There's no EQ on this, there's no compression. But let me show you what I have going on here. So what we have here is the De-Esser and the Transient Designer, which I feel help fix a couple of the major faults with the 416. My biggest issues with the 416. Now, if you've watched this channel, you know I have a love-hate relationship with the 416. I love what it does. I'm just not crazy about how it sounds most of the time. And a lot of it has to do with the things that this is fixing right now. So let me just take these out. All right, so the first things first, right? The sibilance, I'm so sorry about that. The sibilance on the 416 is atrocious. It is really, especially when you're using it up close, the way you use it for voiceover. The ability for this mic to be so sibilant is just egregious. And a lot of that has to do, again, with the fact that it was designed in the era of tape to go to tape, and the high-end roll-off on tape would help, kill a lot of that, mitigate a lot of that sibilant frequency. But it's not just really the high end that causes sibilance. It's really the fact that you're using this mic so up close, and the added harmonics of the 416 really sometimes it's a little bit overkill. So first and foremost, we're going to pop this De-Esser back in. So here it is with the De-Esser, sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. And here it is without sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. Now a good De-Esser, will definitely do the trick on the 416, but my issue is I've never been able to find a single De-Esser that does the job as well as the SPL Channel One Mark III. So this is a big victory here, and there's a fair amount of S reduction going on. Maybe a little bit too much. So here, let me dial it back. So sibilance, 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 sibilance. Yeah, much better. So killing that sibilance is really a big deal. You know what else I like? Actually, let me just point out. From this angle, you can really see this beautiful, warm, like amber glow of the SPL Channel One Mark III VU meter, which I love. Now, here's the other thing that I think that the SPL Channel One Mark III is capable of fixing with the 416. Let me turn the Transient Designer on. I want you to hear the difference. So this is with it out, and this is with it in. And what you're hearing is really a smoother response across the mid-range. Now that to me is one of the big issues with the 416. Because when I take it out, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel how much more expansive that mid-range becomes, because without it, right? You're hearing more of how the 416 has kind of a V-shaped frequency response. There's a lot of low end and a lot of high end, and the mid-range is not really as much. There's enough mid-range to punch through, but you're really not getting the broader, more natural sounding mid-range. But then when you add the Transient Designer, it really kind of widens that frequency response. It sounds really much more natural. It sounds more like a large diaphragm condenser does. So what I like about it, and from this camera angle, it may not be easy to tell, but what I have is the sustain. I have it dialed up to 3. Usually with the other mics, the Latin mics and stuff, I just have it cracked. It's really barely like on 1. But here I'm adding a little bit more sustain. Now again, here, listen to it without. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It really fills out that mid-range. The resonant area of my voice that carries through that mid-range sustains a little bit longer. It feels a little bit more full. It actually kind of fulfills a lot of what I want the 416 to do, which is sound big and present. And just taking, the attack, I really just have it cracked just a little bit past the indent here. So it's like a -1. And it's just really to take the heat off the first onset of transients, right? That initial onset is really where you get a lot of that plosive energy. So if I just take the heat off a little bit, just take the intensity off the attack a little bit, it doesn't really change. It doesn't change the timbre of my voice, but it definitely helps me with any sort of plosive energy that may be directed toward the mic, because I don't use it with a pop filter. I don't like pop filters. There's no EQ on this, but let me just show you something. And it's kind of hard to see from this camera angle. It's impossible to see from this camera angle. But I'm going to turn the EQ on, and I'm taking out just like a little bit, like about 3-4 dB at 100. So, and what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to add a little bit of air. So here it is, adding a little bit at 19. And it really kind of brings it to life. Even if I don't take out that 100, all I'm doing is adding the little bit of that air band. And what this does is when I really want to get down here and intimate, right, it helps me get a little bit more, it feels a little bit more lively. It feels a little bit more in the room. Now let me take it out completely. All right, so this is without it, right? And it sounds a little bit flat across the top end now. But when I pop it back in, that little bit of extra 19 really helps. Now, of course, this is something that you can do with any sort of EQ, really. But I love the way that the SPL Channel One Mark III works with that. Let me take the EQ out again. Now, again, there's no here. I'm going to pop the little compression on. I mean, I don't really use the compression, so I'm going to keep it out for voiceover. But here, to me, this is really the ticket right here. The Transient Designer, fixing that kind of, I would say, stifled mid-range. Right? Without it, you can really hear it. You can really hear how it closes up in the mid-range. And then here I pop it back on, and the mid-range feels, again, more natural. It feels better to me. It feels smoother. And then the de-esser, of course, killing that sibilant top end that the 416 is infamous for. So this, to me, is exactly what the SPL Channel One Mark III does. It really helps smooth over what I feel are some of the resonant faults in microphones, especially microphones that we're using today, that were designed in the era of tape. So what do you think? Jeff, what do you think? Everybody else, what do you think? All right? I am digging what the SPL Channel One Mark III is doing for all my mics. And again, it's making the 416 a little bit easier to use, so that there's less that I have to do with it on the back end. Because quite honestly, I want to get the right sound, maybe a little bit more de-essing here. I want to get the right sound, like right to my DAW. I don't want to be messing around after the fact, right? I just want to focus on my performance. I want a sound that when I hit the record button, that's it, right? I'm ready to go. I'm going to just maybe normalize the audio and then send it off, and then I'm done. So what do you think? Taking the friction points out of the process for me is huge. Having this de-esser that works so well without any sort of post-processing finessing is huge. And then being able to take that mid-range and make it just kind of make it a little bit more present is really, for me, a huge victory. So overall, the sum of the parts really adds something to the 416 that makes it a much better mic than it is with other preamps I've used it with. But what do you think? All right, let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe. So until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.